You go, girl.
Ready to go? All right. So today on our Monday Motivation with the BLABmaven Epic Entrepreneurs, we are the Epic Entrepreneurs. We are 5 generations of incredible entrepreneurs bringing our expertise, our talent, our knowledge to help you have a better career, a better business, a better life. So today, our topic is outwitting the devil. And not just outwitting the devil per se, but actually we're talking about the book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Now, this book, for those of you guys who, yay, we've got at least 2 copies here. And I believe
I should have got one, but it's on my Kindle.
Okay, well, that's the same thing. I read it first on Audible. And then whenever I read something on Audible, if I really, really like it, I go out and find the book. So I really, really liked it. I went out and found the book. But so Outwitting the Devil, I'll give any of our listeners or people who are catching the recording a quick background. Napoleon Hill is kind of the forefather of greatness for, forward-thinking personal growth. And Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. Well, the same year Think and Grow Rich got published, he wrote another book called Outwitting the Devil. Now, after he wrote this book, his wife looked at him and said, "Don't you dare publish that until I die." She said, "We're going to be outcasts. You can't publish this. You can't share this information." And so Hill didn't publish it. And he waited until she died, but then he died before she did. So then Hill's wife gave it to their son. Their son's wife read it and said, "Don't you dare publish this until I die." Mm-hmm. And so the son then died and the wife didn't. Well, the wife then died recently and passed the book on to the Napoleon Hill Foundation, who went ahead and published the book. And I have to tell you guys, the first time I heard that story, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, I guess. Interesting. I like Hill, so I'll read the book. But really, when I started going through the book, I'm driving around town listening to it on Audible, and I'm just like, I kept getting chills hearing this stuff, going like, I cannot believe, 1, we haven't fixed any of this stuff. 2, this was written almost a century ago and is still this relevant and forward thinking. And 3, this is just insane. Like, I don't know, what was y'all's first thoughts when you started going through the book the first time?
I can just say that I almost didn't go through it. Cheryl introduced me to it, so I'm sorry she's not on here. She said, "Hey, my son David's reading this book, Outwitting the Devil." And I said, the devil is not a real big, thing I want to deal with. To be quite honest, that terminology has been used to hold people in fear so much that I was like, even with the title, and she said, just, why don't you just dive into it? So I did, and it's quite an interesting book, but I have to be real honest with you. I was, I ended up being disappointed in Hill. I'd always held him in such high esteem, and I was like, what you're writing here, you weren't even able to do. And so that was a little bit disappointing to me. You're talking about all of this, but you didn't even have the courage to do it yourself. You did something safe. You got well known, and you probably honestly would have never been well known if you had published this first. But it did. It made me kind of go, sold out, did you? Because exactly what he's talking about, he sold out. Yeah. Now, if you haven't read the book, you won't know what I'm talking about. But that's just my take on it. But I did enjoy, reading the whole thing. But I was just a little disappointed that he hadn't brought it to the table. And he waited, everybody was like, don't publish it, because everybody, and I see this in business and life and so forth, so many people don't do things because of what other people are going to think about them.
Yeah.
And that's why it didn't get published, let's face it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was complete. That was it. And you're right. Like, for as much as that's what he talks about in the book, but then at the same time, I almost wonder, like, if he hadn't sold out, if he had published it, we may have never heard of it. I bet it would have gotten buried.
It's probably true, but
I don't know.
It's interesting.
But you're right. It was kind of why did you wait? Like, really? But I'm curious now, Yasmin, you said you read it too, right?
No, I've only read the article. I didn't read that book, but I've read Think and Grow Rich, and I have scan through the success book, The Law of Success. I actually have that book, and I can tell you, similar to what Dottie was sharing, is I was surprised because it's different from the Think and Grow Rich. But I can tell you that taking the word devil out of it, or God, or religion, I can see where it's so relevant still today in terms of humanity still being fear-driven, like of illness, or being, losing their wealth, or death, or dying, or all those things that they talked about that I noticed in the article, we still struggle with, as humanity does today. And this was created 100 years ago. It's just the nature of being human, and it is a way to control people versus coming from empowerment and having positive thoughts and thinking more of what we want versus what we don't want. I just thought it was a very interesting perspective of saying that the devil was negative thinking and God was positive thinking. But again, taking religion out, we know how positive thinking, or putting your focus on what you want and thinking in those terms. But it was definitely different from the Think and Grow Rich aspect of what we learned about the law of attraction and all of those things. But I think it's great because it gives us different perspectives on his research as well. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
It gives us, he definitely, and I could see possibly why it didn't get published. But to Dottie's point, as entrepreneurs, you got to have the courage to not be afraid of what people are going to think. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. So I can see that. But anyway, I didn't get a chance to read the book, but from the article, I can just get that the fears are still obviously what controls us into doing those things, and habits, and how we have those habits. In fact, my sister-in-law and I were talking about that this morning, about habits, like eating healthy or not eating healthy. It's habits, right? Yeah. And when they were talking in the article about choosing even the little things of drinking a soda every day and then being 30 pounds, overweight, you're like, wait, how did this happen? It was those small micro bad habits, right? Anyway, I thought it was a great article. I would still love to read the book. It'd be interesting. So I haven't actually had that opportunity yet.
What about you, Jen?
Oh,
you're muted.
There she.
She must be having the disappearing voice problem that seems to plague the blabs.
My square won't mute, and I was trying to mute because I've got some background noise. Got my little one here with me. I've got a full house, so I don't know how it's not muting it. So I have the opposite problem.
So
I can't mute myself.
I had that problem last week. I had to open it in I had to go into blab.im and run a search for Epic Entrepreneurs and find the Blab. Instead of doing it through the BLABmaven thing, I had to go through that. So maybe if you try that, it might help.
Oh, okay. I could do that because I know there's a lot of stuff going on. So you guys chat away. Let me see if I can do that. I'm sure you can hear it in the background, but I literally can't mute.
There's not a whole ton going on in the background.
Oh, okay. If you're okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Anyway, here she comes.
Let's try it again. It's pulsing.
Is that?
Yeah, I accepted her, but it's popping off again.
Well, in the meantime, while we wait for Jen to show back up, I think one of the things that freaked me out the most about this book, and I don't remember if they talk about it so much in the article, but the idea of drifting, just drifting through life. I think that was what scared me the most reading that, because for years that was me. I was like, oh, well, you go to high school and then you graduate, and then you go to college and you graduate, and then you get a job. And I was so unhappy many times, not all the time. I'm not saying life sucked, everybody hates me, I guess. It wasn't like that, but it was just like there was no plan, there was no focus. And since I've broken free of that, I've seen such changes in my life that when I see someone else in that drifting thing, it really bothers me, because I know they don't even know how much how difficult life is at that point. So for me, what were y'all's thoughts on the whole drifting as the way to control, as the number one sin?
I think that is something that has not really ever been a part of my life. You know what I'm saying? I've always been pretty focused. I mean, I was focused in high school. I was focused in college. I was, my thing has been to sort of ease off of some of that at times, So, but I see it a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think still some of the drifting goes back to when any of us are doing something that really doesn't resonate with us, probably it's been a little more challenging in that area since I moved, back in 2002, because I was leaving everything that I knew that had been familiar for 12 years, And so I can identify with it, somewhat in the sense of where am I going, what I'm going to be doing, the times I shared with y'all when I would look in the mirror and go, who are you? Kind of like trying to figure out what direction am I going? So I guess in that sense, I can certainly identify, I think it was the first time where I didn't know in my life exactly where I was headed and what I was going to be doing. And that was, I quickly wanted to, tap into something that really resonated with me, So in that sense, I can identify with that.
Yeah. And I think
that the point about the purpose, which is opposite of drifting, there are times in life where we feel maybe lost or at a crossroads. And when we do drift, it's going to, how do you know when you get there? It's like with goal setting that we've talked about in the past, right? And if you're drifting versus goal setting, like having clear vision, I think people have that sense of loss or aloneness if they don't have that sense of purpose. And we've talked about that. And I think that drifting is such a key element of what I read in the article. I'm so glad you brought that up, because if people have kind of that compass, I think that they're much more satisfied and happier in life than just being at the effective life.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it gives you, I knew where I was going all the way through high school, all the way through college, or at least I thought I did. I didn't end up there, but I thought I knew where I was going. But there was no purpose behind it other than that's what you do. Mm-hmm. Like you go out there and you get a job. And I had this idea that I was going to try and help people. I've always loved, I wanted to run a barn, right? I wanted to be running a horse farm. Yeah. Like riding horses type of thing. And I always had this idea that I would help kids through it the same way they kind of helped me. But it never was like this major defining purpose. It was just kind of something to go do. And there wasn't a reason to do that thing in particular. So I don't know, I still see people drifting and then wondering why they don't have the success that they're looking for in their life. So I don't know. One of my questions was if anyone had ever caught themselves drifting, but it kind of sounds like it's been something we've all managed to snap out of.
Well, I think, drifting can also get a bad name.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard the poem by the Hopi Indians where to push away from the side and to allow yourself to sort of drift down the river and experience what comes along, or I think there's conscious drifting and there's unconscious drifting, if that makes sense. And maybe that's just a distinction on it. Drifting where we're just kind of miserable and not sure why we are, not sure where we're headed, but I think there's a chosen drifting, and that can be actually a good thing sometimes, especially for people who have always been on it, always so goal oriented, and sometimes to let go feels out of control. But now, does that make sense?
Yeah, like being in the allowing of whatever shows up in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm in Southern California. Just as an aside, I'm looking out the window. You would think there was a hurricane outside. It's crazy. It is so
Really?
windy. Yeah. In San
Ours
Diego,
is, it's
I'm
really.
in San Diego, which is usually perfect weather. It's like
Hey, Barry.
torrential downpour.
Hey,
The
Barry.
trees are like on the side, like they're blowing over like this. So if you see me drifting for a sec, because I'm looking out the window because I can't believe here I am in beautiful sunny San Diego, and it's catching my attention. Hi. So anyway, I just wanted to share that as I noticed that I was drifting for a moment, another version of drifting. It just caught my attention. Anyway,
Hey,
So, hey, Barry.
I'm drifting towards Japan. I'm drifting towards Japan where Barry is.
hi, Barry.
Thanks for
Welcome.
coming in.
Hi, it is like almost, I think it's like 4 a.m. here. I was laying in bed, lights off, and I got a notification that Motivation Monday with Dottie. I was like, "Ooh, well, let me clip on over here and see what's going on." And I thought I was going to be able
How
to
cool is
sneak
that?
in and watch, but then it said Barry has joined. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to be here today.
Well, welcome to the call.
Yeah.
So we are talking, kind of like I said in there, we're talking about this book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
Have you ever read it or heard of it?
Never. The name
No?
Napoleon sounds familiar, but I haven't read it.
Think you
So
grow rich.
Yeah, the Think and Grow Rich guy.
Okay, Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard of that title.
Okay, so Napoleon Hill was all about success and what sets, some people apart from success, and what helps some people be successful, what helps some people not. So we were talking about, and actually I've got to hop over here real quick. So Dottie, you want to take it? And I would love to hear Barry's thoughts on drifting and how it's affected people's lives, stuff like that. So, but I need to take care of the guys.
Well, Barry, one part that he was talking about in Outwitting the Devil, and the devil is kind of like the fear stuff, that gets you. And so, we're talking about one of the biggest things he says can affect success is just drifting. And you can imagine what drifting is. I was kind of sharing, I've been pretty focus oriented most of my life, but sometimes I've found drifting can be good if it's a chosen drifting, but just insignificant drifting really gets us nowhere. So have you experienced times in your life, you're young like Stephanie is, Stephanie's 26, but Stephanie has really gotten super, super focused and is super successful. So tell us, Barry, have you had times in your life where you feel like you were drifting?
Oh, of course. A lot of times I feel like I was drifting. And I think
what did you do to pull yourself out of that?
Partly of that, and I want to use an example that's pretty relevant right now, is like my fitness, going to the gym and working out. So I'll say that, I never really set a goal or set numbers to achieve while I was working out. I just, I'll show up, I'll do this, I'll do that. And so what I decided to do is, actually, I got this from you, Dottie. If you don't set a goal, it's like not setting a target out there. You're just shooting into a field. It's like going archery shooting and like, where are you going to shoot the arrow? If there's no target, I don't want to be around you because I don't want to be the target, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote down on paper, and I have it on my refrigerator across the room here. And I wrote down on my refrigerator what I wanted to achieve when it came time for me to do my physical fitness test, which happened to be today. So this is very relevant. So I had on my sheet of paper that I wanted to do 45 push-ups in my minute. We get quizzed on how many push-ups, sit-ups, and our run time. So I normally did like 33 or 34. So I set a goal, like I want to do 45. I set a goal that I wanted to do 58 sit-ups because that's the max points that I could get for my test. And then I set a goal that I wanted to run my 1.5 miles in, I've never done it in less than 12 minutes. So I wanted to do it in 11:59.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to my physical fitness test today. And the first part, I did my push-ups and I did 46. Okay.
All right.
And then when I got to my, and I jumped up and I was like, crushed it, crushed it. I did it. I've never broke 40.
We're losing you.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. Try it again. We missed that last sentence. Just so, Barry, before you continue, just so you all know, Barry's in the Air Force in Japan, got transferred there, back at the end of last year. So just to give people some context, and he's also, he's like an online marketer, really using Instagram with the millennials. So he's an amazing young man. So I just kind of wanted to give the context around Barry. Okay.
Give me a little background. Why is this guy just randomly out here getting tested on his physical fitness, right?
Yeah.
So I jumped up and I was excited. I was like pumped. I've never broke 40 in a minute before. Push-ups is not my stronghold, I guess. But if I think like that, oh, it's just not my strong suit, then I just think, okay, well, I'm just not going to focus on it because I'm not good at it. No, I worked hard on these push-ups every other day to get to where I was, and I broke 40. I did 46. I surpassed my goal. And then I met my goal with my sit-ups. So I was pumped. I'm like, all right, now let's go meet this goal on this run. Well, unfortunately, I didn't meet that goal on my run. I did 12:43, so it wasn't quite the 11:59 that I wanted. It was an off day. But I would say, I walked away with a smile on my face. They told me, like, the fitness assessment is never a joyful process. Okay, nobody ever walks away from there like, yay, I had a great time. But I did, because I met 2 out of my 3 goals, and I still passed the third one. But what that allowed me to notice was that what I've been doing for my push-ups and my sit-ups has been working. What I've been doing for my run has not. So I need to step back and reposition my target so that I can achieve that goal at my next date. So I'll implement some different workouts, some different routines, maybe get a workout partner. So even though I didn't achieve my goal, that doesn't mean I failed. I found a way that didn't work.
You just missed the mark this time. But I think
this time I found out what wasn't working. So now I can move on to something that is.
In the article, it talks about the yin and yang and the failure. You get the taste of, what success is because you failed, and you know what failure is because you succeed. That's what it was talking about in the article. Mm-hmm. And literally, like the yin and yang, the good and the bad, the dark and the light. Like, you got to have one to have the other, is what he was talking about, at least in the article. So it's interesting to see. So instead of beating ourselves up about maybe not hitting that mark, another way of looking at it is like, we get to experience that, so that when we do succeed and do, like, knock it out of the ballpark, like you did, like hitting 46 or something is what you said. So you get that opportunity to be like, wow, I did it, right? Versus on the other side, we're like, oh man, I missed the mark. But you just get to relish more in it. You know what I mean? That's
so true. That is so true. Mm-hmm. I love this this blab. It's like the Brady Bunch. We're all looking at each other's corner.
Isn't it funny? It's exactly how we describe it too. Exactly like when we see the squares. Now, just so you know, Daddy, on my screen, you're frozen. I don't know. Is she frozen for you guys?
No, she's working for me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. She's just beautifully frozen. And then my mute is not muting. So there's little things along the way. But again, what we say is when it's live television, quote unquote, right? Yeah. You just roll with it. You know what I mean? You just roll with it. And it's all part of it, because as entrepreneurs, that we're always going to be dealing with things that you can't predict. Like this weather here, I'm thinking it's going to be beautiful weather. I did not bring a jacket. And it's torrential downpours. Torrential.
Are you in California?
I'm right now in California. I live in Denver. I'm visiting family. I have some business here. And it is like hurricane-like weather outside at the moment.
Santa Barbara?
What's that?
Are you near Santa Barbara?
It's south of San Diego is south of Santa Barbara. So it goes Santa Barbara, LA, Orange County, San Diego.
So funny. I just saw a post on Facebook of my friend that teaches. He's a school teacher in California. He goes, where else in the world would a little bit of rain, cause 20% of your students not to show up for class? So
either like a snow day, right? Exactly. You would think it's a snow day. But I mean, truly, it's not just like a piddly amount. I mean, I'm looking outside and the trees are like sideways. I'm like waiting. I think I hear a lot of fire trucks outside, like to your point. I can hear there's a lot of chaos going on in the city because San Diego is not used to, or Southern California is not used to any type of weather at all. I mean, it really, it's
The
crazy.
hard part is they've needed rain, but not like this. So
Yeah,
anyway,
you know,
back to talking about the drifting and
So we just
topic
drifted
today.
off of conversation.
We just drifted off topic, but that's okay. There's stuff happening. So Barry, I mean, do you kind of gather that without setting goals that you would be drifting? Can you tap into how that is and how that's been for you in the past? And how does that apply to the rest of what you're doing in your online marketing?
Well, I guess, Dottie, I'll say that this really was maybe one of those aha moments. You know, I have those quite frequently. And it really helped me, I don't know, it just kind of slapped me in the face with, hey, when you set small, achievable goals that you can work towards daily and hit that target, I mean, if you, like you said, even if you miss the mark, you're still moving forward. You're still moving forward. That's not traction lost. It's just lessons gained. And that's really, really just become so obvious now that now I can put that towards anything that I'm working on.
You know, Barry, one of the key things that I learned from, you know, Mark McDonald was 1%, you know, increase what you're doing, even 1%, because that doesn't seem so overwhelming. I think when any of us are in that drifting mode, what seems scary, we lost Yasmin now. So Jennifer.
I'm in number 3 now.
Yeah, Jennifer,
I'm moving on up.
You know, when we're drifting and everything, let me see. Let's see who that is. That is Jennifer. Okay. I hope you're going to come in this time, Jennifer. There you are, Jen.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yay.
Yeah, see, you know, she did what the true entrepreneur does. They stick with it. So, Barry, I don't know if you've met Jen.
We've met.
I've met.
Yeah, of course you have. Dong, dong, dong. I'm going from platform to platform. But anyway, you know, just with the drifting, you know, Barry, and how that impacts our life. Jen, you jump in here. You've been sitting outside there trying to get in the blab room. So what about you and this principle about drifting and how that impacts our lives?
Absolutely. I really love this book. Like, I love the work of this. I agree with you, Dottie. The irony of the fact that the author felt like he had to drift before it could ever be published, I think is pretty fascinating in itself. But I also believe in the right timing. And if I feel like the world is finally ready for this message. So I think it's fascinating that it was stopped so many times before it could be published and the world could be ready for it. I feel like, you know, what I have seen, which is very encouraging, is more and more people waking up to wanting to be non-drifters, wanting to become empowered in their own lives and not look to an external authority to tell them what to do, what to think, how to be. You know, that more and more people are awakening to becoming, you know, recognizing that they are their own authority. And ultimately, that's what this book, I feel, is all about, is recognizing that everything that you need is within yourself to be able to really prosper in life and really, you know, experience what life is all about. And I love the imagery of having a conversation with the devil. That's completely how the book is structured, where it's this man who got this opportunity to sit down with the devil himself and pick his brain. And it's like, what a premise, right? Like, what? Oh my goodness. And it's so interesting, the personification of the devil and how he responds to the questions. It's such a reflective type of book that made me personally, when I read it, stop and really, really do a strong self-assessment, because as much as I would love to believe that I'm not a drifter, that I really am all about not drifting, which is very true. That's my value system. I don't want to drift in life. I want to be conscious and aware of my life and how I want to live my life. Just how easy it is to drift, and just how subconscious drifting actually is, how much we don't even realize sometimes that we are drifting, you know, and how much energy it takes to live as a non-drifter. And I feel if there's any time you know, in humanity that this book can have the greatest impact, you know, I'm going to venture to say it's now, because of the rise of entrepreneurship and us being in a space where, like in the Maslow hierarchy of needs, our needs, majority of us, at least in the United States, our needs are met. So we get to have the opportunity to really have some really strong time to sit back and reflect about how we can take charge of our lives and what we can do with what we've been given. You know, we have so many blessings, and that's something that I think that this book is about as well, is recognizing the opportunities that we were gifted and being able to really take the most out of those opportunities, and not only be of service to ourselves, but then to be of service to others as well. To be able to ultimately, hopefully, one day have an entire planet of non-drifters, and what an amazing world that would be.
Everyone with a purpose.
Everyone with a purpose, like that, you know, that is the dream. That, you know, for me, that's the vision, is that, you know, I don't know how long it'll take, but I got to tell you, I am all for putting energy towards that.
That's a cool tagline, a good title for something. Everyone with a purpose.
That is
everyone. I love it, Barry. I love it.
Someone needs to write a book on that, because I think it will change the world. I think
everyone with a purpose.
Everyone with a purpose. Like, that would be so cool.
You know, we probably get
Rick Warren, who is a big Christian author, you know, wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, I think it was, in 40 days. And that book in the, you know, Christian community was huge. You know, he's a well-known minister, you know what I'm saying? And so he had a lot of people really working on purpose, you know, and so forth. So it is a really interesting thing. And I think what would excite me would be to see people really being on fire, on purpose, and also consciously drifting together on occasion. You know,
everyone does.
It's really a fine line between getting, well, I think even if you look at what happened with him, he was so on fire, so on purpose, that Think and Grow Rich was going to be the book that he wasn't going to risk. And his wife was like, no, you know, you're not going to do this because it'll spoil everything. And indeed it would have. I do think, Jen, you're right. You know, now we're in a time frame where I think people are ready to hear it. Not only were people then, it's remarkable that he wrote it, first of all, during that time. Not only would people not been ready to hear it, they would have bashed him unmercifully, you know. And so, as we said, probably some of his work would have never come to fruition. And his Think and Grow Rich, as we know, is probably, if you ask entrepreneurs, most of them will tell you it's their number one book. Like nothing else is even close, you know. They have a lot of other books on their top 10 list, but most of them say that. And so it's had a huge impact on people. And you just wonder, what if? And I know, of course, Sharon Lecter, you know, has been so involved with the family and Napoleon Hill and so forth. And, you know, she wrote the Think and Grow Rich for Women, and then her feedback and comments in the book and so forth. And it's interesting, you know, how she's been able to give some perspective to all of this.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Barry? You were going off on something.
Well, I was going to say, I think a lot of people want to live on purpose. Like they want to know what their purpose is, but I think sometimes it's hard to put that purpose into action. Like, how do you know what your purpose is? And then when you find out what it is, how do you tie it all together and use it to be productive in the world and to influence?
Yeah.
That's one of the things I think is kind of relevant to that. So I think until you find your purpose, it's like setting your target. Until you find your purpose, you're just going to drift. how would one find their purpose? I mean, I think it's going to hit you like an aha moment one day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you agree?
The chicken or the egg? Are we back to that?
Well, I think you've got a really good point. Like, I think it is
it's self-driven. I can't tell you, Stephanie, your purpose is to coach people on how to train dogs. I can't tell you that. Like, unless your self-driven purpose, I don't think you're going to 100% fully impact the world unless that's your self-driven purpose.
And I think you may not even recognize your purpose the first time you see it either. I mean, it's something you have to. So when I first started this whole sales training, business coaching thing in April 2014, the guy that had, talked me into doing this, I went to a boot camp with him, and he had a speaker come in, and the speaker was, this motivational speaker. I don't remember the guy's name, like Tony Martin or Martin, or I don't remember. But I came in, and he's talking about how, he goes, think about, Mother Teresa, people who've impacted the world. Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr. These people had something you couldn't pay them to stop doing. You could not write a check big enough to stop Martin Luther King Jr. from marching against the racial bias. You could not write a check big enough to stop Mother Teresa from helping people. You could not write a check big enough to stop them from doing it. If you wrote a check and said, I will give you this, I'll give you unlimited funds for the rest of your life, but you can never talk about this again. You have to find the thing that you would look at it and say, couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I know I couldn't do it. And it got to the point, like, he was, of course, teaching us how to be sales trainers. So he said, you have to get to the point where you believe that someone could not write you a check big enough to stop you from talking about how to sell. Because you know that tomorrow you would go out there and you would talk to someone about how to sell, and it would all be over. You couldn't do it. I think that's a really good gauge on how to find your purpose. What's the thing that they couldn't pay you enough to walk away from?
What's mine?
I would love to know if you guys know what it is, but I think that's the gauge. That's how you tell. What's yours, Barry?
My purpose is couldn't tell. Would be. I have an echo coming in.
We can't hear it.
I guess the money won't stop me, but the echo will. So my purpose is, I love sharing my experiences in life that can help positively influence somebody else. So, like personal development, I love diving into that. I love being mentally fit and helping others do the same thing. I love sharing how I start my morning sets the tone for my day, and that I don't let negativity come inside, fill my day. I just don't have room for it. Out it goes. Mm-hmm. So that would be one thing that I would not stop doing. Like, my purpose is to share positivity everywhere I go, is to bring that positive attitude and impact somebody else's day. You were away when I was talking about this, but I had my physical fitness test today. I think you were away.
I think, I was away.
But like I said, it's not a joyful process at all. It's just long and drawn out and painful. Like, can I just do this and leave? No, you can't. It's just a long process. And the girl, one of the fitness monitors, she was, how are you so positive? She goes, you were the only one that's been out here this whole time, like, motivated and happy. You're out here running in the cold and the rain. And, like, how are you so happy? And I just told him, like, I just don't have room for negativity in my life, So that's my purpose, is to share joy everywhere I go and spread cheer.
I love that. And that's something, I was reading a book yesterday, and it said, if you want to find what it is that drives you, or if you want to find what it is you really want to accomplish in life, instead of saying, I want to do, I want to have, say, I want to be. He said, if you focus on I want to be, it forces you to focus on on how you're going to help other people.
I like that.
And I think that's exactly, I think that's how you tell your purposes. how are you helping other people? This is bigger than you. This is not about Stephanie or Dottie or Jen or Barry. This is about how are we impacting the world?
So let's share. What's your purpose, Jennifer?
Well, I will say that what I am very, very passionate about is providing space for others to raise their self-awareness. So whatever that is, whether it be in their personal life, in their business that they do, in all aspects of their life, I really am very, very passionate about the self-awareness movement. I believe that the peace that we want to see in the world begins with each individual and each individual finding peace within themselves. So I am very, very passionate about providing space for people to be able to discover what that is for themselves, because wars go on on the outside, but are really, I believe, started from wars going on within human beings themselves. So if we can focus on calming the wars within ourselves and living peaceful within ourselves, that peace will then emanate out to the world. So that is my purpose. I feel that was why why I'm on this planet and what I'm all about. And I love using technology to help us be able to communicate these messages. So, whatever it is that as each individual that I get to, be exposed to as they are discovering their self-awareness and raising their self-awareness to what their peace is and when I say peace, I mean it as in PEACE and then also to PIECE. So like their internal piece and then their piece to the puzzle of what they're contributing to the planet, and then using technology to be able to send that message out. So, using marketing, but with the intention of being able to share whatever their piece of the puzzle is.
That is awesome. Help them find their inner purpose, definitely. And she's gone.
No.
Her purpose is to be quick and to be brief.
Just as we were getting into it.
I know. So about yours, since Jen decided to take off.
Yeah. Let me let her back in real quick.
I love this Brady Bunch setup.
That was so good, Jen. You like it was like poof. Anyway, so my purpose overall, my purpose has been and will always be to encourage people to live authentically, whether that's in their personal life or in their business. And I was threatened many, many years ago that I should not be authentic, because being a gay person in our world, and so many years ago, it was one of those things where you must lie, nobody will do business with you. And so I'm really excited about being invited back to speak to Leadership Lexington 30 years after I was in the class and publicly stood up to somebody who was saying, I hear about those gay people, don't want them teaching my children. And, stood up to say, I'm a gay person in this community. I won't be held by fear. And so it was like this, I call them spiritual markers, because I think it's just a word that sort of like sometimes these things happen. And I was just like, watch me, and so I was threatened even in some ways about money. You'll never, if something happens, we'll make sure you never get money. And I go, you know what, if that was really what was most important to me, don't you think I'd keep my mouth shut? So, I think there's, and in business, I try to get people to really live authentically into their purpose and the reason, their why, and why they're doing their business and how they can make a difference. So I love supporting people in platforms, technology wise or otherwise, for them to really make a difference in the world. Because I personally feel like, I'm not free until I help, people get their message out into the world and do it in the most authentic way. I think people are starved for authenticity. They want to live it, they want to do it, and they don't know why they're not, because it feels very scary. But I can tell you, on a year-long journey that we took in 2005 and 6, people would say, what did you learn at the end of this journey? And I would say, 2 things. People deeply want to connect with other people. They really do. And yet we put up walls and barriers to keep from happening the very thing that we want. Mm-hmm. And the second thing was that people really want to make a difference in our world overall. Now, there might be one or two people along the way that say, I don't want to make a difference. And lots of times I think that's just fear speaking. But in general, those were the two things that came over and over again about people wanting to connect. And I even look at, just the general climate today. And I think, why are people being so mean-spirited in a lot of ways? So I think that there are so many people, though, waking up today, and that is an exciting force. When I look around at the world today, I go, what a great time to be alive. It's a super time to be alive. Around the world, there's difficult things happening. I don't deny that. But I think, I believe in the resiliency of the human spirit and our capacity to really change and make a difference in our world, and to, I've stood sometimes for others until they were able. Now, I don't know why I was, people would say, I can't do that yet. And I'd say, I'll stand in your space then. And then one day, I'm reaching down, because one day I know you will. And there were people in Lexington, Kentucky that have now said, Dottie, you just scared us. I scared everybody on both sides, And they said, you were just a woman kind of ahead of your time in that way. So to be able to go back 30 years later and speak to Leadership Lexington is going to be kind of an exciting moment, for me. So anyway, that's how it all fits together for me in purpose.
You know what I think is really cool? They always say, find what you want to do. Like if you do what you love, mm-hmm. You'll never work a day in your life. And if you can find what it is you love to do and do it, the money will come. And I think that is exactly what a lot of us have found, is that when you have the thing that you love to do and you're doing it every day, one, it's not work. Even though you had that miserable test, Barry, you still got to do what it is you love to do, which is inspire people and help people. And so it makes it not work. It makes it something you enjoy doing. It makes it something that you look forward to. And I can tell you guys, the money comes when you're really plugged in to your passion, your mission, your drive. Money comes. You don't have to worry about it. When I get really plugged in, really truly plugged into what it is I want to do, the money just starts rolling in, and I don't ever have to worry about it. It's incredible to see that happen. So just my 2 cents there.
Yeah. And, some people think, well, it's not here yet. I say, what do you think it was going to show up in 24 hours, when you're just starting your effort? But if you're consistent and you stay with it, and it is your passion, it will come, I mean, there's no way it can't if you stay committed, if it truly is your passion and it's what you want to do, because people are drawn to people's energy who are passionate about what they're doing. They just really are. They go, I don't know what you got, but I want some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you're authentic and when it's truly the self-driven purpose inside of you and that you're passionate about, that's transparent. People can see that. It's just not a bunch of fluff. You can't fake authenticity.
Right.
You can't fake that. And it's easy to see that in others when they are faking it. So,
mm-hmm. And I don't know how we can tell that, but somehow we do. Like as human beings, you can tell if someone's not being legit with you. And I have people all the time who are like, Stephanie, I prefer to follow you. Like I've had people say, I prefer to follow you as opposed to Darren Hardy or some of these other big names. They're like, because every time I'm around you, I feel like it's authentic. I feel like this is really what you care about. And those other guys, I just don't get that same feeling from. Not that they're inauthentic, but I think when you're really driven by that, when that's really close to your heart, it's everyone can see it, and everything you do, it's the thing that people can't pay you to shut up about.
And do they feel that the person's not authentic because they have such a huge following and they've built such a huge brand, and they're at such a different, if you will, a level, I guess, of in their career or in their position, in their life, I mean, where is that line where people start judging, saying, well, they're authentic and they're not? Like, what happens that person starts to be portrayed as not authentic? You know, because like Joel Osteen or something, not to like name bash, but Joel Osteen, he's like a very well-known person. You know, I think everybody knows who Joel Osteen is. And some people will say he's not authentic, but I'll say maybe he is. So
I have a theory on that. I have a theory on that. I believe what it is it depends on what the person is being exposed to. Are they being exposed to a piece of information that is connecting them to the person? Or are they being exposed to a piece of information that's connecting them to the brand? And so this is where it actually does get very tricky for human beings who choose to build their name as a brand, because ultimately the biggest struggle that comes with that is that if somebody, or inevitably when people relate to the brand, they're no longer relating to you as a human being, and therefore it's impossible to be portrayed as authentic because you're no longer a human being, you're a brand. The only way to be authentic is to be a human to in the human to human contact, right? So that's just something to be aware of. Like as we like build out what we build out, like that's something that I've been reflecting on myself, because a lot of people have said, you know, Jennifer, like I can see like you're gonna blow up with this soul that you have and what you want to give, and I'm like, you know what? You're never gonna. My goal is for it to be like it's never gonna be Jennifer Santoro as the brand, because I want to always be Jennifer Santoro with Barry Tuck, right? Like I never wanted to be like Barry Tuck is interacting with the Jennifer Santoro brand, you know, like I want it to be like where there's something else that is the brand, whatever that is. And then whenever they have content with me that we can connect as human beings. But I feel like that's what I've personally observed is that like when people like, for example, I mean, anybody you see like out there, Tony Robbins, you know, he gets criticized all the time. But again, it's like when I see the people, when I've observed him being criticized, I'm like, oh, you're criticizing the brand because no human being can ever live up to that level.
I think you're right. I think that's a really good.
Excellent.
That is excellent. You know, snaps there. I think that's a nail, like hit the nail on the head. I think that's right. They're like, hey, I've interacted with the Darren Hardy brand. I don't know anybody, like once you meet someone in person, it's like, oh my gosh, like you're fired up for them. And now all of a sudden you realize, wow, you know, Tony Robbins stuff, it's not just him saying it. Like he lives it, he breathes it, you know. I think that's a really good point. The people who are usually the ones who are bashing are the people who haven't had the chance to actually meet him. And
that's true.
That's a really, I'm going to have to mull that one over. That's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, spend some time with that. It's an interesting theory. It's just an observation that I've seen along the way of studying. It's because it's coming from like this place of being obsessed with human development along with marketing. So it's like when you see the two together, it's like deciphering what is what and how are we interacting with it.
So part of me wonders, I was at the TEDx San Antonio conference this weekend, which was so cool.
So cool.
But so they showed,
I want to go.
I know there's one in November. Come visit. November 12th. But they showed, Shonda Rhimes. You know Shonda Rhimes, How to Get Away with Murder scandal.
Oh yes, I know her.
So she did a TED Talk, and they showed her TED Talk, and she talked about how her kids saved her career. And she goes, you know, she's starting, and at first I was like totally connected with it because she's like, you know, when you've got the hum that keeps you going, right? Your passion, your drive, you're going. And she's like, you can tell she's said this over and over because she's like, you know, 3 shows a week, sometimes 4 of this, it's 20 hours and 70 hours directly responsible for 70 hours of programming. And she goes, at some point you lose the hum, the thing that makes you lose the hum. And so I wonder if, to some extent, the people who think that, you know, Darren Hardy or Joel Osteen or Tony Robbins, I'm wondering if part of them may have encountered that person at a point when maybe they weren't as in touch with their hum. They got so busy putting stuff out there that they lost track of their target.
Mm-hmm.
That is so real. So real. I think that that's an inevitable part of the process, right? You know, and I think that that is why it's so important for us to start recognizing more and more that it can be very disappointing to view another human being as a teacher, and as in just the teacher role of instead of just like looking at these people as the teacher, you know, look at them as a teacher and a student of life as well. That, you know, all human beings at the end of the day are still human beings, and it's impossible to be on all the time. And it's kind of like, for me, what I try to remember is, you know, I want space to not get it right all the time. You know, I want that space. I'm like, I should provide that space for other human beings too, you know? So,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
A really good point, Stephanie.
So it's so easy to get into judgment about others, but I have found most of the time it's coming from a form of self-judgment that then gets projected onto another person. Like sometimes even when we're angry with somebody, you know, we don't communicate that well. So Jen, I think you're right on. And Jen and I have had some conversations about this, because in putting together, you know, what we're doing for Educator Entrepreneurs, and, you know, Dare to Take Your Epic Journey, as you create your own course and so forth. We've really wanted to, you're making it about training to transform the movement. You know, we too are a part of the movement, even though we might be the guides, the mentors. But then guess what? We're going to be guided and mentored by the people who come into the course just as much as we are with them. And I think it goes back to the, you know, people have so bought into that guru status. And you all know, I always say, well, that really means G, you, or you, because that's the best guru in the world. People really, out of fear, I think, sometimes buy into that, oh, I'm the guru. You know, like, I will be better if I am the big guru who is known by everybody. And like I said, that's when it comes back to sometimes, are we really being our most authentic self? You know, are we wanting that because we're wanting that so that level of being able to help somebody? Are we wanting that because we need that ourselves to be okay within who we are? Does that make sense? So it's a tricky little thing that, you know, I've questioned myself on all my life. You know, why am I doing this? You know, it goes back to that why. Being very, very clear about that.
And then also too, I think having a lot of intention about your community that you surround yourself with. Mm-hmm. As soon as I've seen this happen a lot of times, is that isolation really is hands down the biggest killer of the spirit. And so, you know, what can happen sometimes is that as you are growing this brand, and say you are the person that's out in front, and if you're not intentional about making sure that you have a community that keeps you grounded in community and in friends, it's like the ego is too strong of a force, and it'll start messing with you. Well, you know, you can be the most grounded, most heartfelt person in the world, but without a community to help you be reflecting back to your value system, it's almost like and it's inevitable to become lost in that process. So it's just, you know, a word to the people out there, and a reminder for myself is, you know, always surround yourself with the people who empower you, and also reflect back to you your value system, so you can always check where you're at.
Friend power.
Yeah.
All good stuff. I'll say this past week, I believe it was Wednesday, I got the opportunity to sit in on the Chiefs panel here on the base. And the Chief, that's the highest level of the enlisted force for the Air Force, so they're E9s. And it takes sometimes like 20 years for them to get to this level of Chief. It's like 1% of the Air Force get to become Chief. So it's very, very, very competitive. So one of the questions that I asked the Chiefs panel, was 3 of them sitting up there. I asked them a question of who was a mentor in their life, and how did they impact them, in their career? Because that's what I want to know. Like, I want to know how you made it to where you did. What were some of the people that encouraged you to get there? I don't care about the regs and all that stuff and what you think about the retirement plan. That's not, I don't care about that. That's out of my control. But what I can control is who I allow to influence my life. That's the things that I wanted to know. And also, I thought by asking that question, it would trigger some thought in the people around me. So, the Chiefs, it was 3 of them up there, and 2 of them, you were like, I knew this guy back when we were loading cargo on an airplane when I was an airman, stuff like that. And how they've both joined the ranks together. They made it all the way to chief together, and they bounced ideas off each other, and like that constructive criticism, you'll say how that's mentoring in itself. When you're able to bounce ideas off one another. And so then the other chief, when he chimed in, I really got a lot from this guy. He said, I get mentoring from all of you every day. He said, from the airmen that have been in for 6 months to, my partners that have been in with me for 20 years. He goes, I get mentorship from all levels of people every day. People teach me something new. And he said, and I believe mentorship is like a buffet. You're not forced to take everything. You only take what's relevant to you and what you can use in your life. And for some reason, that just stuck to me so well, that he didn't see himself as like he had to look to a mentor that was per se above him. He grows from people around him. And I thought that was just very powerful, that, his message stuck out a lot different than the other 2. But, in all, they all had great, words to share. But I really liked how he made everyone in the audience feel valuable. Even though I've only been in it for a year or been in it for 4 years, you still have a purpose here, and you still have something to share and something to give and teach other people. I thought that was great.
I think there's a lot of power in that. I saw something. It's become one of my mantras. Everybody you meet has something of value to add. And you should always, I don't remember where I was reading it, but I was reading a book that the lady who wrote the book said, I wake up every day and all I tell myself is prepare to be amazed.
It sounds like Lisa Nichols.
Love that.
It wasn't her. I don't remember who it was. But I was like, that's a really issue. Like, I'm going to meet people every day. They're going to blow my mind. Everyone has something of value. Mm-hmm. Don't discount somebody because of who you think they are, who your preconceived notions are about who they are.
Ain't that the truth? Because
I was like, that's really cool. That was one that when I've got a little notebook of like life lesson quotes, and that one went in there. But we are actually at the end of the hour here already. So I know I missed a chunk of it, but I feel like this still went really fast. Any final thoughts before we wrap everything up here?
Yes, I have a final thought.
Go for it.
I think we should all get our pose on for the camera, and I'm going to screenshot this on my phone. And
I love it.
Okay?
You ready?
Pose, Dottie.
Pose. We're taking a screenshot. That was perfect. Okay. I'll make sure to get these pictures out to y'all.
Thank you. That's awesome. Well,
and we can share this on our Facebook or whatever social media, Instagram, and then we can
We're
put the
glad
link
you
there.
got up, Barry.
Yes. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for coming on, Barry. I know you probably won't be able to join us every Monday, but any Monday you can, you're a welcome participant.
I'm going to try to. I had to get out of bed, turn on the lights, find my phone charger. Because I was just going to let my phone die and go to sleep, but I had to get it juiced up.
There you go. Wow, we've motivated there. We did our job. We motivated.
Should we get is Yasmin still out there hanging out? Should we get her back in for a moment to see if there was anything she wanted to add back in?
Yasmin.
Yasmin. Well, let me
let
hop out and do that.
We'll have you pop off then, and we'll see if Yasmin. Great to have you here, Barry. Thanks for
Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
See y'all later. How do I get off here?
Oh, there's an X.
There's an X.
You got it.
Bye.
I'm kicking you off. So Yasmin, if you're there, come on in for a second. And if you've been listening, and if you're not still there, okay, I know you were in California, but just wanted to give her the opportunity too to pop back on. But this is a great topic though, Stephanie. And,
I'm so glad that I thought of it. You stemmed it, Jen, talking last week. I was like, oh my God, we should totally talk about outwitting the devil. So, because I was like, oh, I got to find a sales article. And I was like, no, I don't. It doesn't have to be sales.
No, that's great.
So,
I love it.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Well, Dottie, I think you're up next. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Yeah, well, I'm really working towards trying to find some really young entrepreneurs that I can connect with. I found this one girl, but trying to see if there's somebody that we can either bring on in another generation, whether that's younger or older. I think it'd be kind of cool to, kind of profile them, highlight them, and bring them on. So
Absolutely.
That would be great Motivation Monday. So that's what I'm working towards anyway.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great.
That's
Well,
cool.
thank you so much for such a great blab. This was awesome.
This was cool. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thanks again, Barry, for coming out, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
Okay.
Okay, see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.